It really has been a tale of two seasons for the Yankees so far. An unbelievable start. A historic start that looked like it could produce a 115 to 120 win team for a long stretch of time. But the bottom has completely fallen out. And the Yankees are stumbling badly. They are 1-8 in their last 9 games. So what is the reason for this historic collapse so far? You can partially blame injuries. Giancarlo Stanton has played in just 80 games so far this season, so he's played in 29 games less than Aaron Judge. Losing Mike King definitely looks like a turning point. I mean, you look at the guy's numbers, and they were just amazing. 2.29 ERA, 66 strikeouts in 51 innings, 169 ERA plus, just 6.2 hits per 9. I mean, the guy was having a phenomenal season in the middle of his prime, 27 years old. So yeah, you lose one of the best relievers in Major League Baseball having a career year for the season. It's going to impact your bullpen. Miguel Castro was 5-0 out of the bullpen. Still had a 4 ERA, so he was not immune to the collapse, but he was eating up some innings for you. He had thrown 27 innings. Jonathan Loaizaga hasn't been Jonathan Loaizaga this season, 6.57 ERA. You lost Luis Severino to the 60-day IL, and he had made 16 starts with a sub 3.5 ERA. So these guys were having outstanding seasons, and now they're gone. And you've had to replace them with guys who just haven't been as good. Abreu is not Mike King. Never gonna be. Wandy Peralta and Lucas Litke are nice pitchers, and they're having nice seasons, but they don't scare you in the 8th or 9th inning. So a lot of this has fallen to Clay Holmes, who has mysteriously forgotten how to throw his sinker for strikes. He's still got outstanding numbers at large, but over his last several appearances, he's been very unreliable. I think you're seeing a flaw that the Yankees are not able to replace their offensive weapons with new offensive weapons out of the minor leagues. The Yankees should always have a couple of really good, deadly left-handed bats on the team. And when you lose Carpenter and you lose Rizzo for a week and Joey Gallo wasn't hitting anything for most of the season, Aaron Hicks is lost, you become too right-handed. And the Yankees need to be able to dip into the minor league system and bring up a good quality left-handed prospect, but they just don't have that. Trey Sweeney's a little bit further away. Oswaldo Cabrera is a switch hitter, but for some reason the Yankees don't really trust him yet. We haven't seen him. And despite Estevan Florial putting up pretty good numbers, the Yankees just don't seem to trust him. So what's a prospect to do? Josh Donaldson has really not performed this season. He's hitting just .226 with a .702 OPS. Power hasn't really been there, just 11 home runs. That's only one more than Jose Trevino. Gleyber Torres has been really up and down. And at just 25 years old, you really expect him to be getting better and entering his prime. But it seems like it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back all season for him. Same thing with Aaron Hicks. Now, we didn't expect him to do 30-30 like he said. Honestly, I'm still surprised he's been on the field this long because he's had so many issues with injuries. But he's just not producing. 658 OPS. That's unacceptable. It's just flat out not worthy of the Yankees. Now, there are some positives. We talked about Jose Trevino. He's having a really good year, hitting .265, 110 OPS plus. He's even got a couple of stolen bases. And he doesn't strike out that much, 41 times in 80 games. He's a good style of hitter for the Yankees, I think, right now. Isaiah Kiner-Falefa catching a lot of flack from Yankees fans. Look, I still think he would be an excellent utility guy. I think he fits the Luis Sojo mold because he's a contact guy who's aggressive, but can also play all over the infield. I'd have no problem using him as a backup shortstop. But it's become clear from watching him play now 102 games that despite having some range and a pretty decent arm, he boots too many routine plays. We've seen a return of the base running mistakes. We've seen a return of the lackadaisical play, namely Gleyber Torres. A lot of times he takes his frustration out by dialing down the hustle, and that's not the way to do it. You know, I was watching The Captain, and it's given me such a better insight into the mind of Derek Jeter and what motivates him and the way he approached the game, which I think was the perfect way to approach the game. I mean, this guy was out there to win, and that's the only thing that mattered to him. And he understood that to win, you need to play hard from the very first pitch to the very last out. And he had very little tolerance for people who didn't want to win as badly as he did. And I think that champions, I mean, you listen to Michael Jordan in The Last Dance, you listen to Magic Johnson and other champions, Tom Brady, talk about winning. They can identify the winners around them. You know, Brady likes to play with Gronkowski. Not only is Gronkowski incredibly skilled, but he's got the same winning mindset. I tell you what, I would love to see Derek Jeter, now that he's no longer a member of the Marlins organization, join the Yankees in some capacity and maybe help them identify some winners. You know, I think Jeter wants to be in control of a team. I think Jeter wants to be the CEO or the GM or, you know, ultimately the owner. That's not going to happen with the Yankees. But I think he would be an excellent addition to the front office in a role where he would evaluate other players and their championship drive. I know that sounds strange and it sounds kind of convoluted, but I feel like he would have a unique insight, having been on so many winners and played on so many teams that were expected to win and didn't. I think he would have some insight being around the team, being around the league, being around the minor league system, and just giving the ownership and the general manager, whether it's Brian Cashman, whether it's someone else, insight into who he feels has the same kind of championship drive, the same type, plays the game the same way, the Paul O'Neill way, the Roberto Clemente way. So anyway, Frankie Montas is on the mound tonight for the Yankees. He'll be making his second start. He was not good his first time out. There's no sugarcoating it. He was all over the place. I'm going to pull up his stats real quick. He went 3 innings. He gave up 5 hits, 6 earned runs, served up a home run to Arenado, 3 walks, 2 strikeouts. I mean, that's bad. That's good for a 18.00 ERA. Now, Frankie Montas is 29 years old. In his career, he's got a 3.81 ERA, but I've heard a lot about his splits, so I decided to look them up. And in his career, his ERA at home is 3.23. That's in 303 innings. He's 18-17 from the win-loss side, but I wouldn't worry too much about that because the Oakland A's have not been great. But on the road, 4.50 ERA. Now, anyone who's familiar with Oakland and the Oakland Coliseum ballpark will tell you that there's an enormous amount of foul territory on both the right side and left side of the ballpark, which leads to a lot of balls that would typically be foul balls at places like Yankee Stadium, Fenway Park, Tampa, Toronto, you know, all the ballparks in the AL East that end up getting caught by infielders in Oakland. They just camp out under them because you have a lot further area in which you can just run and try and catch a pop-up. So one of the narratives that you're going to start seeing now, if Frankie Montas struggles, is that maybe he was a product of the Oakland ballpark. That's something that Sonny Gray probably benefited a little bit from. Something a lot of Oakland pitchers have benefited from. I remember when Kenny Rogers came to the Yankees, he stunk, but then he went immediately to Oakland, and he was pretty good. Now, he definitely benefited from that because he was not a strikeout pitcher, never was throughout his whole career. He would get a lot of foul balls. And in a place where you can run them down, that helps. That's extra outs throughout the course of the year. So hopefully it's not the case. I want to believe that Frankie Montas can pitch on the road and as a Yankee. And we're going to find out the next chapter tonight in Boston. So this morning I'm on Reddit and I'm reading the different articles. And I saw a post about how Jordan Montgomery is 2-0 with a 0 ERA since being traded from the Yankees to the Cardinals minutes before the trade deadline. Still a baffling move! But I digress. I believe in Jordan Montgomery. You know, I feel like he's going to be a long-term big league pitcher because he throws strikes, he can make the ball move, throws hard enough that he'll get by, but even if he lost some of his fastball, his control is good enough that he could become a Jamie Moyer type. He throws a cutter, it's getting better, and as he learns, as he ages, to cut that ball on both sides of the plate the way Nestor Cortez already has learned, and the way Andy Pettitte and CC Sabathia learned late in their careers, he's going to be a real problem. Maybe the Yankees will sign him back, but they had to trade him to get Harrison Bader, who we have not seen yet. I got to say, I'm not super excited about Harrison Bader. I like the idea of better defense, but he doesn't really help you much on the offensive side of the ball. He does have some speed, but he felt like a redundancy of Tim LeCastro. Tim LeCastro's been fine out there in the outfield. And Bader is not that much of an offensive improvement over LeCastro, at least from what I've seen. So it's just a baffling move. We've heard that the Yankees had a deal in place that they thought was in place to acquire Pablo Lopez from the Marlins. But at the last second, they came back and asked for Gleyber Torres, and the Yankees declined. And so the Yankees kind of fumbled the ball there at the deadline. And I don't know if it's a coincidence that the team has struggled since. Obviously, the pitching has been a little bit thin, but the energy of the team is not the same. Now, we obviously lost two good teammates in Joey Gallo and Jordan Montgomery. I think that Gallo was a fait accompli, though. I think that the team knew he was going to get moved, but guys were kind of surprised and shook when Jordan Montgomery got dealt. Just my 2 cents on that. And one final thought before I go lay down. I'm kind of sick today. I was thinking about doing a watch party tonight, but it's not going to happen. Just going to do a recap. But I think the Yankees' injuries have put their roster construction into question again. I think that there's no reason for Ron Marinaccio to be in the minor leagues other than poor roster construction. Now, you've got some good pitchers in the bullpen that you don't want to get rid of. Peralta, Litke. Obviously, they like Abreu. They like his 100-plus mile-an-hour fastball. Jonathan Loaizaga was so good last year, but he's been atrocious this year. Negative 0.9 WAR, 1.662 WHIP. And you have to wonder if maybe just his magic has run out. I mean, he's still got a really good fastball, but there's just something a little bit more hittable about him this year. I don't know if he has options. I'll look into it. I'm just riffing right now. I suspect he doesn't. But if he does, the Yankees should consider sending him down to get straightened out and then use his spot for Marinaccio. I know it wouldn't be a popular move because everybody loves some lasagna, but it's something the Yankees should consider if it's at all an option. I'm just looking back through their stats right now, their WAR leaders. Aaron Judge is already at 7.2 WAR. DJ's at 4.5. He's having a really good year. Nestor Cortez, I figured he would wear down more than he has, but he's been strong lately. He's 9-3 with a 2.67 in 21 starts, 118 innings, 125 strikeouts. I mean, the guy can pitch. Jameson Taillon is an interesting character. 11-2 on the season, good win-loss. He made 29 starts last year, 22 this year, so he's been pretty consistent in taking the ball, workhorse. 3.95 ERA is not terrible, but if you look at his splits on the season, it's another guy where it's basically two separate seasons. So in the first half, he had a 3.86 ERA, and in the second half, it's 4.43. But his fade really began in July, maybe late June. His ERA was 2.01 in May, and then 4.59 in June, 5.04 in July, 6.17 so far in August. He's going to be a free agent. I think there's a good chance that the Yankees let him walk. Even though he has been a workhorse, and we know that Cashman likes guys who take the ball every 5 days and can eat up those reliable innings, which ironically is the opposite of what he was known for when he was with the Pirates. He was a guy who was always on the IL. Some of it just bad luck. So he's somebody that I'll be interested to see what the Yankees do about him in the winter. My guess is they'll let him walk. All right, guys, I will see you after the game tonight. I just wanted to get on and do a little bit of a riff/rant because it's been a really tough month and a half, really, for Yankees fans. So hang in there. This, too, hopefully will pass.